Alright, so it's been a while since I've done the Criterion Backlog, but I have watched more films in the backlog. I've seen 4 new films that I've never watched before. I just, I guess I didn't find the time to record the other ones, and plus I went on a trip, but we have 4 here. We're going to kind of do like a rapid review of all of these. Starting with the one I watched first. We got Elevator to the Gallows. This is directed by, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Louis Malle or Louis Mal. This is spine number 335, so kind of an earlier one, and it's released in 1958. And this is a French New Wave film. I guess that would be pretty early in the French New Wave then, because obviously we have films that people often categorize as like early sort of big hits, sort of including 400 Blows and Breathless and films like that. But this, I believe this would still fit in the French New Wave. And this is his first feature. And I thought this film was great. I thought it was very slick. Obviously, it has the score by Miles Davis, I believe. That's correct. Yeah, Miles Davis did the score for the film. Sounds great. The film looks great. I really love the style of it, especially when the main actress, I forgot, Jean Moreau, I think I'm pronouncing that right. She was in Jules and Jim, and she was in this, and she sort of has these like hazy scenes where like the background is uh, fuzzy, I guess, the way it's filmed, and I thought it looked gorgeous, and the film's just very slick and very cool, and it sort of follows, I guess, like 3 different stories going on. It follows Jean Moreau, and then the main guy, I forgot the actor's name, but he's like a spy, kind of, or like an insider, and then you have the young couple who sort of go on this little like kind of not Bonnie and Clyde, but you always feel inclined to say that when it's like a crime thing with a young lovers, but it was a sort of just kind of like journey they went on, filled with crime and mystery and such. But I don't really know what the film was trying to say, and I'm not taking that against the film or anything. I'm just saying I think it would require more repeat viewings. It could just be obviously I'm guessing with the young couple, it was sort of this tale about like trying to act like you're older than you are, sort of like uh, little kids playing dress up as adults, almost, you could say. I saw a review talking about that. But I really enjoyed the film. There's not much to say about it. It is short, 91 minutes. It's pretty simple. Um, it was just like a, I don't know, and also since it's been a while since I've seen it, my thoughts are more distant from me. Um, but it was really cool. I liked how slick it was, and yeah, that's really all I could say. It was cool. It was slick, and I can't really think about like anything more substantive to say. But really great film. Gave it a 4 out of 5. Um, Next film that I watched was a 4K actually. Lone Star. This is a newer one. This is Spine 1202 or 1202. Lone Star by John Sayles. I've never watched a John Sayles film. I know he has Madawan in the collection, but this is a film that was released on 4K, I think earlier just this year, and I've always been interested in it because it had like a large cast. I mean, it's got Chris Cooper for like one scene, Frances McDormand, um, other mind just slipping. Oh, Matthew McConaughey's in this, but this is a really great film. Underrated. Like no one really talks about this. I don't know if it's been like harder to find since, before the Criterion came out. Um, but I thought this film was great. It was sort of like, because it's pretty 2 hours and 15 minutes. It has like this American sort of mythology feeling about it, where it's kind of just like I believe it's in Texas, right? Houston, or no, just a small border town. It's just kind of got like these characters sort of living through and like dealing with the sins of America's past and present, such as obviously racism and like the main character's father dealing with problems in the past with racism and how that sort of continues today and how he has to struggle with that. So like I said, it's kind of like dealing with the past sins of America and how we have to, as a society, kind of deal with them today and sort of progress from those. And overall, the film had a great sort of like classic soundtrack. Like it was kind of like, I I guess you could call it maybe a little sweeping, sort of maybe emotional, like heightened emotion. The film can sometimes be like melodramatic, but not like in a bad way. Like maybe that's just kind of the feeling of it, because films can be melodramatic, and that's just sort of their vibe. It's just a melodrama. I think sometimes in the film, what kind of brought the film down, not a lot, because I still think it was great, is that melodrama perhaps. Just sort of like a little too contrasted from sort of the great visuals and sort of metaphorical storytelling going on throughout the film previously, that it sort of felt a little too contrast. And also with that, sometimes in those scenes they can be shot a little too set like. You know what I mean? Where it kind of feels like a set where other scenes were shot beautifully and more naturally. So kind of just that contrast. I still think the film, for the most part, is great. Just that contrast sometimes. Really great screenplay, really dense screenplay. You go between a large ensemble of characters. It's sort of how they're all connected in this like web of America, and sort of the different kind of characters and not personification, sort of like identities that you would see in America. I think is part of it. And I thought the film was great. I want to check out more John Sayles, such as Madawan. I think that's his most known film. But yeah, it's just really dealing with a lot of like racism, because it's on the border. So you deal with sort of the problem between like the people in the town versus the people coming in from Mexico. But I just thought that it was a really great film. I felt that it was impactful. I mean, when I said it's melodramatic, usually melodramatic is like heightened emotion, so obviously you would want it to reach you on a higher level in that way. And I thought it was great. Great film. I give it another 4 stars. And next, move on some heavy hitters here. We have Spy number 1112. It's also relatively newer. I think this was last year. We have Miller's Crossing from the Coen brothers. Technically directed by Joel Coen, but I think, or credited as just Joel Coen, but I think they're all of their films have been directed by both of them. It's just there was some rule or something, I think, where you couldn't credit in the Directors Guild, where you couldn't credit 2 people. I don't know if I'm correct on that. It was written by both of them, but Miller's Crossing, I believe this is their 3rd feature, because it was Blood Simple and then Raising Arizona, and now this in 1990. And this is a crime, I guess you could say mob film, that takes place during like the Prohibition era. I think it's the 20s. I don't know if it says correctly here, but yeah, it's like the Prohibition era. And I really loved this film. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did. I really like the Coen brothers. Their favorite film of my favorite film of theirs is No Country for Old Men, which is an obvious pick, but also like I love Fargo. Big Lebowski's great. Blood Simple grew on me. I didn't really like it on my first viewing, and then I rewatched it, and I just loved the sort of just like very grimy simplicity of it. I just loved it, and this is just incredible to me. It seems like it has a higher budget than other Coen Brothers films, but it was really this sort of moral tale of this main character, Albert Finney, right? Or is that? Oh no, Gabriel Byrne, who is incredible in the lead. He's so great in this film. He plays this guy who works for this crime boss, but then he sort of switches over to a different crime boss. It's sort of like he just kind of knows everybody and works with everybody for his own benefit. And the film is just fantastic in the way it has this sort of and the way a lot of Coen Brothers films do, it has sort of this almost I don't know if I'm using this term correctly. I've used it before. Like I guess you could say like mythological. Just the way it's like these very very like characters that sort of represent a sort of struggle within a certain type of... I'm not describing this well at all. These are always off the cuff. I apologize. But just incredible characters to me, because the Coen brothers are always great at making every character sort of have their own identity, and like even side characters that barely show up, you're like, that felt like a real person, or like a very like fun character, is that they are really great at characterization and making each character having their own personality. And I loved the main character in this. I just thought Gabriel Byrne did a fantastic job of kind of just playing this like asshole sort of smart wit character, and he just works so well in this environment where it's just full of crime, and like he abides by it, but also like plays by his own rules. You know what I mean? And I just thought that the direction was great, looks great. It wasn't shot by Roger Deakins like some of their films are. I don't think this era their films were being shot by him yet. I think this was Barry Sonnenfeld. And yeah, the film looked great, especially that opening shot where you see like the passing by of the trees, sort of like, I guess you say like worm's eye view perhaps, of sort of the trees passing in Miller's Crossing, as the title says, and then the shot of the hat blowing away, which sort of describes the the inner workings of the main character of the hat going away, because the hat is a key item and figure in this film, in the way it I guess acts as a sort of mask, or maybe a mask of masculinity, because Miller's Crossing in the film is this area where we sort of see characters take off this mask, and they're like just begging for their life because it's an area where characters are brought to be killed. So you really just see them strip away from all this hardness and bitterness that they have built up in this crime world. And we see it with the main character as well. Not as much as other characters, but you know, he gets like sick out there, and he's like more, I guess you could say, raw than he is earlier. And the whole film really is just about him going from a guy who is in this hard world, but he has, I guess you could say, more morals, and at the end, he's just like a guy who has no morals. Like the scene where he's with Steve Buscemi at the end, and he kills him, and he goes, what is it? He's like, what heart? And then he kills him. It's just so classic. Like it's like a riffing on sort of like hard-boiled like detective sort of films, having fun with it. Because this film's also funny because Coen brothers are one of the funniest screenwriters. But I just absolutely love this film. It's one of my favorite Coen brothers films, which I didn't expect going into it. But yeah, this is top 5 Coen brothers films to me. This goes up there with No Country for Old Men, Fargo, this, Big Lebowski. Yeah, this would be in the top 5. This is just a fantastic film. Oh, Inside Llewyn Davis is also up there. But yeah, fantastic film. Love it. And finally, I watched this film last night, so I'm most familiar with this. We got Michelangelo Antonioni's, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Blow Up. This is 1966, spine number 865, so also not really later one, but later one in comparison to other. Like Elevator to the Gallows was like 300 something, so this is a newer one. I watched this last night. I didn't really know anything about it, other than like kind of the basic premise, and I was blown away by this film. I think this is a masterpiece. I think it's one of the best films of one of my favorite films I've seen, personally. I didn't expect this to blow me away as much as it did. No pun intended, the blow up, but I just thought that this film was so thought-provoking in its mainly in what it's trying to communicate about art, because I think that's what this film is really about, like art, the sort of perversion of art, or how it can influence people, how it can make people powerful, how we perceive art. That's like the main thing of it, of how the art of seeing, I guess, and perceive from art. Because the whole plot revolves around the main character taking photographs of a couple in the park, and then later finding out, like, oh, I think I recorded a murder, technically. And then going through, and there's a great essay in the Criterion written about the film. I think it's called In the Details. Yeah. And it was just a great essay talking about the film, and sort of comparing it to the murder of JFK, where they would blow up the image and zoom in on the image and find these little details like he does in the film. And just like the art of seeing, of when we look at something such as art or photographs, whatever. I mean, photographs are art, but also like to decipher them in a historical context, or like crime, to know what's happening. It's like different people can see different things. Like when he blows up one of the images, he thinks he sees the corpse of the man he thinks was killed, and he shows it to this girl, and she's seeing a painter that we see earlier in the film, and she says, "Oh, it looks like one of I think it's Tom, one of Tom's one of Bill's paintings." And I just thought that was so powerful, just sort of the way it discusses art and how art can be perceived in many different ways, and the sort of powerful nature of art, because art is like the thing near and dearest to me on this earth, and the way it's sort of not analyzed, I guess dissected in this film, and the different ways that it works and provokes, because this is also during the 60s in London, which was sort of this like youth revolution of sort of like rock was coming around. We have that one scene, so great, the scene with the band where the guy smashes the guitar, and it's sort of the piece of the guitar, he throws it into the crowd, as artists do sometimes, and the main character catches it, and he's sort of, this is part of the film where he's sort of disenfranchised from the whole like modernist art scene that's happening around him, and he takes it with him, and the people chase after him like, I want that guitar piece. And I think it's sort of how we project meaning onto art, because the guy smashed his guitar just because the speaker wasn't working, he was frustrated. And I think it's how we sort of see it as like, ooh, why did he do that? Why did he smash the guitar? What was his purpose behind that? I want that. Not just because they're driven by fandom, that's part of it, but I think they want it for that reason, is that they want to attach some meaning to it. And he takes it out of, maybe sheep mentality, like he wants to take it because this has something to it, or I don't know why, but he takes it, and then he takes it outside, and he's like, I don't want this, and he throws it down. And then another guy picks it up, and he's like, oh, whatever, and he throws it. And I think that is just so, like, I just love the way this film plays with the idea of art. And there's the screenplay, I think I was watching the interview with the main actor, and I forgot his name specifically. Okay, I forgot his name, but he was fantastic in this film. He was pretty young, and Michelangelo Antonioni discovered him in a theater show, I think, in London, a play. And I watched an interview, I think it's David Hemming, or something like that. I watched an interview with him where he was talking about how the screenplay or something is only 13 pages long. Because there's not much dialogue in this, it's mostly visual, and by God, this film looks absolutely gorgeous. For a film about photography, it's definitely photographed incredibly well. And he played with the environment a lot, Michelangelo Antonioni, in the way he colored the grass in the park, where the quintessential scene happens of the murder, where he made the grass more green. And it really shows it's beautiful in the way the trees sway in the wind. And I think in the town, like just in London, like he painted buildings to be brighter, and then the street he made darker for that kind of contrast. And it's just absolutely beautiful. This is the first Michelangelo Antonioni film I've seen, and I'm just blown away. I want to check out more of his work, because I just thought this film was a work of genius and truly like a cool I don't know much about it, but it seemed like a cool portrait of that time, that period of just youth and sort of that revolution. And I didn't even talk about the ending scene yet, where he's in the park and there's the clowns, or the mimes, sorry, that we see earlier in the film. And we see them go to this tennis court, and the two mimes that are on the court are like actual professional mimes, I think, that they hired for the film, and they do the fake tennis with the fake ball, fake racket, like it's all invisible, obviously, because they're mimes. But the main character is there, and he's at the gate, and he's watching it happen, and he's sort of watching it, and he sort of gets amused by it. Of course, he was like, at first, he was like, whatever. And then they do it, and they're like, oh, it went over the gate. And he plays along, and he takes the ball, and he throws it. And then we get the shot of him. We don't see the court, and you hear the ball like it's real. So he's bought into the piece, to the art, to the scene. And it's just beautiful and so powerful. And then it goes to the wide shot of the park, or not the park anymore, it's just, I guess it is a park as well, of just the green, the grass, and he's there, and then he fades away. Sort of like that idea of like something not being there till you see it, or something. I don't know. I don't have, like, I'm not that great at analyzing this yet. I just watched it yesterday, but I was so just impacted by this film. I thought it was absolutely genius, and I think it's one of the best films. This came out the same year as Persona, 1966, which is one of the best films of all time by Ingmar Bergman, and then we have this, and I'm just like, the 60s, especially the late 60s, was such a beautiful and amazing time for cinema. And then we have films like this and Persona just like pushing the medium forward, and this is just an I could talk all day about this, but yeah, it's a 5 out of 5. I mean, what did you expect me to give this? I think it's an incredible film, and I just think everyone should take the pleasure of watching it. I just think it's so thought provoking. I don't know if I'm projecting my own, like, this isn't actually intended, but it would. But that's kind of like the idea of the film, is that we project these ideas onto art and what is and what isn't, and it's all about the eye of the beholder, and it's just so beautiful. And yeah, I'm not going to keep going on, but I absolutely fucking love this. It's a 5 out of 5. This is so many. We're not going to do the shelf thing this time. Next time, we're going to go back to just one film. But yeah, this was a fun time. I enjoyed talking about this with you guys. Obviously, I was the only one talking. You were listening, but such is the same. 4 great films. These were all great. We haven't run across a film that I did not like yet. So was that going to happen? Am I going to find a film that I'm just like, fuck this movie? It's probably not going to happen. Because the Criterion Collection just holds such great films. But thank you for listening to me ramble about cinema. It's truly one of the best pleasures of life. But yeah. We got Blow Up, highly recommend. Miller's Crossing, highly recommend. Lone Star, highly recommend. Elevator to the Gallows, highly recommend. And also, I forgot to mention, Blow Up was scored by Herbie Hancock. So, like, another film, European film, where it's a famous jazz artist of the time recording the soundtrack, kind of like Elevator to the Gallows with Miles Davis. So, thank you guys for watching. And now, that's a great send-off. See you guys in the next episode. Thank you for watching the Criterion Backlog. See you later.